Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Center for Rural Affairs Rural Rapport. My name is Teresa Hoffman. I am a Senior Communications Associate here at the Center for Rural Affairs. Joining me today to discuss how renewable energy has contributed to grid reliability during this summer's peak temperature periods is Center Policy Associate Lindsay Mouw. Lindsay, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So, Lindsay, several headlines this summer raised concerns that there may be rolling blackouts during peak summer temperatures. Why was this a concern?
So you may remember last February of 2021, Texas experienced a pretty severe cold front that came through, and this placed a lot of strain on their electric grid. Texas is not outfitted for colder temperatures, so as this came through, on the customer side, you had increased demand as people were turning up their thermostats to heat their homes. And then on the generation side, we saw decreased generation because some power plants saw their fuel supplies freeze. And so they weren't able to generate electricity as anticipated. So that resulted in this gap where you had too much demand and not enough generation. When this happens, rolling blackouts are a possibility. If the grid cannot meet all the demands, they may intentionally turn off electricity to certain areas at a time to preserve the overall grid. So similar concerns arose this spring when forecasters predicted heat waves rolling across the country this summer. Grid operators know exactly how much energy generation capacity that they have, and there are concerns that there might be an energy shortfall, meaning not enough generation to meet increased demand as people cranked up their air conditioners.
So we experienced some heat waves across the country this summer, but we did not experience rolling blackouts. Why is that?
So renewable energy has taken a lot of the blame for energy shortages. However, renewable energy actually increased the grid's reliability. And we know this because analysts examined data from the heat waves this summer and from last February. And looking at this summer, the 8 hottest days were examined in our upper Midwest region, looking at Minnesota, North Dakota, and Iowa. And from these 8 hottest days they looked at, the data actually showed that wind provided the most energy. And it ended up generating more than 50% of the day's energy for 5 of the days examined, and topped out at 64% on June 19th. And that's just wind. When you also take into account solar, which actually is at a much lower capacity than wind, but if it would have been equal to the amount of wind, it would have generated enough electricity to displace pretty significant amounts of fossil fuels. At the same time, fossil fuels have become less reliable and actually more expensive due to an increased or an insecure fuel supply, volatile costs as we're seeing this year, aging power plants, and these extreme weather events. So fossil fuels are becoming less reliable, and it is the burning of these fossil fuels that contributes to intensified weather events like heat waves in the first place. So what we learned from this is that renewable energy actually prevented energy shortages this summer and ended up bolstering Texas's grid more than anticipated last winter as well.
Well, speaking of renewables, can the expansion of renewables continue to increase the reliability of the grid?
Yeah, there's actually a lot of opportunity to further increase our grid's reliability by utilizing renewable energy in combination with a few other things. So one option is increasing our distributed generation. This is, for example, solar on rooftops of homes or businesses. So in this instance, if a generating plant, like a coal plant, would go out or their fuel supply would freeze, that generation would not be supplied to the grid. But you could still have solar on people's rooftops generating electricity, offsetting that strain on the grid. It's possible that they may even provide more energy than the home or business needs and can actually send the energy back to the grid, and it can be a significant help during these peak periods. Another option is to complement renewable energy with storage. This can really increase our grid's reliability by storing energy when the sun isn't shining or the wind isn't blowing, and help supplant the energy when it's needed most. However, transmission is a big issue for our grid. Transmission is the ability, the infrastructure to transport energy from where it's generated to where it's needed. And right now we lack enough transmission to continue building new renewables. So if we really focus on building out transmission, we can also increase our grid's reliability.
Well, great. Well, thanks, Lindsay, for joining us. You can read more about this in a blog that Lindsay has written. It's titled Renewables Enhance Grid Reliability Amid Summer Heat Waves. That can be found on our website at cfra.org. The link will also be put in the comments section. As a reminder, you can visit our website or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram, where we continually share resources that we develop and promote events we are hosting. Thank you all again for joining us for the Rural Rapport. Have a good day.